Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a gathering place where change makers gather together and we talk about social justice, economic justice, anything that's on our mind. And I have some special guests today, the Vision Walkers, and I'm going to bring them in and they're going to talk to us about their mission and what they're doing in the state of South Carolina. Because, I'll just let them tell us what they're doing. But I want to remind everyone that a gathering place is hosted by the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. And if you want to be on a gathering place as a change maker, you just contact us at 843-318-8644 or email Marilyn at gullageecheechamber.org. And we'll be happy to shout out to you and see if we can bring you on. So our first guest is Mr. Craig Khanwell, co-founder of Vision Walkers. How you doing, Craig?
I'm doing well, sister. How are you today?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can. Can you hear
Good,
me?
thank you. Good, thank you. I can hear you. I think we're going to have a little buffer because you're on your phone, but that's fine. We're rolling with it. And then we have Jason Belton. Hi, Jason. How are you?
Hello there.
Good to have you. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. So anyone, please drop your questions in our comment section and we'll be happy to get to those questions as we're talking. So make sure I got this right, y'all. Y'all correct me. So are you both the co-founders of Vision Walkers? Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, very good. So tell me, what is your mission and how did this get started? And who wants to start? Craig, do you want to start?
No, I'm gonna let the young brother Jason Belton start.
Well, Jason, you start. All right. Wait. Age before beauty or beauty before age? We don't know.
I think I got both. So we
all right.
all good.
All right.
Well,
good.
our root, mission always is bridging the gap between what we consider the streets and the suites, which particularly in the Black community is our disenfranchised, communities. So what we believe in first is helping the voters before the voters help us. Typically a lot of grassroots organizations, they seem to always see where the voters can help them, but we don't focus a lot on how can we help the voters and the constituents in our communities that are typically forgotten. So I'll let Brother Craig take it over there, the elder in the house.
So Craig, I think you've talked to me about this before. Maybe not specifically Vision Walkers, but the mission of it. So give me a little bit more details.
Well, as you know, Marilyn, our communities are beset with division. And one of the major divisions we have is the youth and the elders. And we have a form of classism that goes on in our community as well. Mm-hmm. And what we're attempting to do and what we have done in the 46 counties that we're in South Carolina is to make sure that the streets become more engaged in the political process, become more engaged in economic justice, become more engaged in solving the societal problems that exist in our community. So we have appealed to street organizations and others who have been left out of the political apparatus, who have been left out and marginalized in society, to get them more engaged in every facet of Black life in America. And we've been successful at that up until this point. So Jason and I formed that unity and that bond over 5 years ago. And we've been working steadily and consistently since that time to make sure we hit these communities that everybody else is afraid to go to, talk to these brothers and sisters that everybody else is afraid to talk to. And now they are becoming electrified and excited about engaging the political process, about engaging the society and trying to solve problems that others pretty much run away from.
So I got two questions already. One, you said you're in 46 counties. Does that mean you have a local branch in each county? How does that work?
Correct.
Well, we haven't necessarily have a branch, but we do have people on the ground there that we are going to formulate into branches. We have people on the ground in every county.
So people are working on the ground.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. And then when you say engage, those who are usually not engaged in the process, what specific things are you doing? You're saying talking, but what specific things are you doing to engage them into the process?
Jason?
Well, one thing we believe in is voter education before voter registration. So our biggest thing is getting them informed on how the political process works. most of our, communities that are, forgotten, the Democratic Party, Republican Party, really none of them really go into these areas to canvas. So we canvass this area. First, we ask, do you even know where your precinct is? We ask what issues that personally, touch these folks, and we tell them, what legislator personally can handle those situations. A lot of times we like to start off at city council. By the time I let them know, hey, most city councilmen, they get voted in by 200, 300 votes. The first thing these people say is, hey, I got that many people in this neighborhood. There you go.
Yeah.
So that's our first way into them, to engage them in the process, to let them understand where their vote does matter.
So they start making the connections to the actual numbers of people in their neighborhood to how they can change, say, a local ordinance or a local elected official. They could put some pressure on that local elected official.
Right.
Correct.
All right, very good. So give us some examples of what you've done. Any success stories, for example.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It must be really good because both of y'all smiling.
Well, one of the areas we went to was Orangeburg. Sorry, our kids running all around.
That's all right.
One of the areas we went to was Orangeburg, and we created that dialogue that I just was letting you know of how closely city council affects us, and how they can engage folks that are right around them as neighbors in these communities, typically standing around doing whatever they do. So once our talk that we had with them, a month later, they rallied all the folks in their neighborhood and ran one of their own peers for mayor. Now they didn't win, but they really woke that community up. From that point, period, they have joined as a chapter in VisionWalkers, and they hitting that around maybe like 70 or 80 folks in that chapter of VisionWalkers in Orangeburg. We currently just bridged them with the Chambers of Commerce down in Orangeburg. So that part of VisionWalkers is actually chambered in Orangeburg. So that's how you get them involved. That's how you get folks out of the streets, when you give them something to do. Everybody wants to be a part of something. So if we give them opportunity, that's the less part they have in violence.
That's true. Right. That's true. So you're directing that energy into something that's positive, that's something that experiences growth.
Correct.
And it engages them. And it really, we make these type of things really complicated, and it's not really complicated. It's really, the issue may be complex and nuanced, but to address it, it does not have to be that complicated. So good. That actually is a very good example. So where do you plan on? I know Craig keeps going to Jason, but I'm gonna go back to Craig for this.
That's right. Let's go to Craig. Let's go to Craig.
One of the problems why I do that is because I think our people need to hear more from our youth. They are intelligent enough, and they're intelligent enough, and they're courageous enough to really jump out here and try to handle some of these problems that exist in our communities. We just have to give them the opportunity to do so. So sometimes as elders, we think we have all the answers because we're not listening. So we need to listen to what they're saying as well, and then give them guidance and direction where they may have little pitfalls that may come their way. So I like to give Jason and a lot of other young brothers and sisters the opportunity to express themselves, so that our elders and adults and mid-adults will understand that they have the capability to lead as well. So I want to just not piggyback on it, because that's such a nasty word. But I want to add to what Jason has said. The VisionWalkers got their feet wet really in the Tom Steyer campaign for presidency.
Okay.
Tom was the only candidate that would actually go into these hoods and talk to these young brothers who have been involved in other lifestyle adventures. That some of those young brothers were gangbangers. Some of them were just in the streets. But when you give them a vision, that's why we're called vision walkers, because where there is no vision, as the scripture says, the people perish. So when you increase and enhance their vision, they have a better line of sight to how they want to live their lives and how they want to impact our communities. So those young brothers and sisters got involved in Vision Walkers during the Tom Steyer campaign, and we were all over the state. And they did an outstanding job of pulling Tom into third place out of nowhere. So our young men and women, they already have the propensity to stand up because they already are courageous. They already are looking for a fight. But let's take that direction and that energy and put it in such a place where it can fight and use that energy and that courage and that fearlessness to make sure that our society becomes a better and decent place to live. That's
Correct.
one thing that a lot of those who are in politics now fear, because they're heretofore they hadn't been being held accountable. So what these young men and women are doing is holding the political officials, elected officials, and certain leaders, spiritual, accountable for the condition and position of our people in our communities. And they're not going to stop. So we have to make sure that we continue to electrify them, give them the avenue to express themselves, and make sure that they hold every elected official, every leader, whether they be political or spiritual, accountable to the Black community.
And I totally agree with that, Craig. I hope you know that. Because you and I have these conversations over the
Right.
last years. And not only spiritual leaders, but community leaders.
Right.
We have leaders without the titles too, and they need to
Right.
be held accountable also. So I'm glad that you said that. I've been advising a group here in Georgetown, South Carolina Solid is what they're calling themselves. And you're right. These are they're youth and young adults they're intelligent, they have the energy, they're willing to step out and affect change. And this group decided that they're going to focus on issues, changing ordinances and changing the law on the state level. That's what they've decided to do, and doing that research, because they're starting to realize it's good to have a march. A march is good for making a statement, for example, but it's the long-term consequences that they're starting to realize where you need to focus on. And that comes down to changing those ordinances on a local level, and also changing the bills on the state level. So we've got to get these two groups together and introduce themselves to each other and hook up. And they're emerging groups around the state that need to know what's going on with each other and support each other, because that increases your footprint and it increases your power, because you can bring more people out and everything. So with your vision, have you had any thoughts towards that you guys are reaching out and partnering with other organizations? And if so, what are you doing to create those partnerships?
Well, first, I want to let it be known that VisionWalkers is just not an organization of just members. We're actually an umbrella of different organizations and their spearheads that are under the umbrella of VisionWalkers. That's why we have folks like Deanna Berry that's over, Denmark Citizens of Safe Water.
For Safe Water.
Folks that we keep it anonymous right now. But VisionWalkers is an umbrella of different organizations where they don't have to hide the identity of their organization, but to come under our umbrella and take our brand with them. I mean, right now we have about 500 plus members on the ground, but we have about 7 organizations sitting on our table, as board members.
Oh, that's and it's strength in numbers.
That's correct.
It's strength. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So when you want a bill, so let me ask you this: do you look at local ordinances and say this needs to be changed, and then you actually draft the ordinance and push that forward, or do you just have an issue that you bring to the attention of an elected official and you want that issue, you want them to run with that issue? How are you working that, or if you're working that at all?
And who's this question addressed to? The elder or the beautiful man here?
Either one.
An issue or an ordinance, we make sure that the people who have the issue and have the ordinance, issue with an ordinance, will bring it to our attention, and then we will discuss that and how we are to approach it, depending on which area that we're in, because some ordinances are different in other cities and municipalities than there are others, and some issues are different. So it depends on the municipality and the area that they're in. And so we look for those in that particular area that have the skill set to address those ordinances and to address those issues and come up with bills or policies that they can write to make sure they attack that with the city municipalities. So we don't sit here at home and say, well, Jason, we have to write this down for this city. No, we find the individuals from that city who have the expertise, and then we allow them to put their ideas and whatever they want to fight against. and then we just back them at the umbrella of VisionWalkers.
Okay,
Correct.
very, very good. Jason, did you have something to add?
Well, I was going to say, just to piggyback off of what Brother Craig was saying, we our biggest goal is powering those who feel that they are powerless. So when we come through with the strength that we come through these neighborhoods with, when we come through with these guys who typically been pushed away, or people look over them or fear of them by maybe the way they look, we embrace these guys. We show them a better way to move. So when we go to these areas, we do what we call listening sessions. We started a lot of groundwork with the South Carolina Democratic Black Caucus. We did a lot of, we coexisted for a while. We still do. So we did a lot of groundwork we consider listening sessions where we hear these young folks, and I'm young folk myself, but we hear these folks and we show them where the power is. And once they tell us, what their objective is and what's bothering them, we put our whole army behind that initiative, and we let them feel that power. And once they see that power and see everybody in uniform around them, oh man, it's wonderful, the results that we get. That's how you hold elected officials accountable. So yeah, definitely.
Very good. Before I ask you the next question, I want to remind everyone that you are watching A Gathering Place, brought to you by the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce, and you will find us on Facebook Live and also on our YouTube channel live. So I forgot to tell you that we are on YouTube live right now. I just want to slip that one right on in on you. So what particular issues are you finding that are out there that kind of like right now, what are the urgent issues that you're hearing on the ground?
Definitely police brutality is definitely one of them. The injustices through the system of jurisprudence. And also another issue is that these politicians don't come to the communities that they say they represent and ever talk to the people. And so what we're doing, we're going to make sure that they either come or we come to them. What has to happen in the Black community, not just in South Carolina, but nationwide, is that our political leaders have to be held accountable to our community. We have allowed our politicians to get in office, and then we don't check with them. We don't even talk to them. Some of us don't. We wait till a big issue comes up, and then we get mad at them for voting a certain way or moving a certain direction that we didn't intend for them to go. So
Correct.
what we are orientating the minds of our people to do is to make sure they understand that these politicians work for them. And then we talk to these politicians about what we're going to hold them accountable to. And if they refuse to do that, then we're going to dog their trail. We're going to drive them out of the office. We're going to drive them from our community. Because right now, the reason why Black people are in the condition that we're in is that we don't hold our leaders accountable, whether they're politicians, community leaders, or spiritual leaders. That day is over. We're going to hold all of them accountable because we hired you to represent our concerns. And if you refuse to do that, we're going to dog your trail and run you out of the community. What I mean by that, we're going to keep pressing on your behind so much. We're going to pressure you so greatly that you will wish that you were nowhere around Black people. So we don't need a white head on a Black body. And if you're not going to stand up for us and address our issues and fight for us, why the hell are you in office? So we have to become that angry about our reality and the reality and the condition of our communities that we're not going to tolerate it anymore. Right. And so we are here to make sure that instead of our politicians, political leaders, community leaders, and spiritual leaders fearing those outside of our community, you're going to fear those whom you say you represent, or you're not going to run for office. That's the bottom line.
Right.
Or we'll get you out of office.
Oh, we're going to get you out of there.
Gotcha. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So Jason, what do you have to add?
Well, another thing that we hear on the grounds that we have to deal with is typically the way the parties move now. They only come in our neighborhoods when they need volunteer work. They need phone banking. They need door-to-door canvassing. They want us to vouch for certain candidates. But they'll go and give, another race group, for instance, Fieldworks. I don't mind saying names. These folks get millions of dollars for the same thing we go in our communities, and we pay them nothing. We give them something to drink and a hot dog. I mean, seriously? So once we involve these people, in this political process, especially during the duration of Tom Steyer, they seen what they was missing out on. Mm-hmm. They seen like, hey, We're the one building this CRM that's holding the data that the Democratic Party is even using to even get around. We put it in there off our blood, sweat, and tears for free, and then we pay to retrieve the same information. So these are the things that we're going to stand on, or we're going to get this same data, we're going to register these same folks, and these parties is not going to touch it. So that is some of the issues that we're dealing with, in our communities, what they're complaining about. Hey, we're looking for jobs, but still yet we out here working 5 hours a day, going in these communities, really pushing our people to vote, typically for the Democratic Party. So now we have other parties and independent parties that are reaching out now. They'll try to pay top dollar for the services of our communities. So do we turn them down because we're so dedicated to the Democratic Party? So we're stuck between choosing to feed our people or to be dedicated to the party who's supposed to be dedicated to us.
Well, I don't think we're stuck. I think we're in a point where we're being educated more so we can make a decision. And I've recently started to not tell people to register and vote.
Right.
What I tell people to do is get educated, get engaged, show up to city and county council meetings. Then I trust that my people are smart enough that then they will decide to register and to vote.
Right.
But the first thing we have to do is get them educated about the issues and the policies, because that's actually more important than the parties. Because both of the parties at the very top are very much alike. They're money driven.
Correct.
And we live in the information age right now. We need to understand that not only in the political sense, but even in the economic sense, information drives the economy right now.
Correct.
And so information is valuable. And they have to come to us.
Oh, the data is gold.
The data is gold, and you own the data. And we have to understand it because we were trained to volunteer. We were trained to give our data away when we were miseducated.
Correct.
We're not realizing that information, that data is gold. That's the money shot right there.
That's where it's at.
How to get to the people, how to talk to the people, where the people are, where their heads are. That's data. And that's where the education comes in, so that we learn to value ourselves and value the community. And whoever walks into the community, then you're going to have the answers for that. That's and you're going to have to pay for that. That's the bottom line. And because we've also been miseducated in thinking we don't talk about money. And while we were educated not to talk about money, they were over there talking about money and dealing with it and taking our information and running with the money and running with that information to make money. And it's not only in politics, because I've worked in healthcare, and I cannot tell you how many times big hospital systems have come into community health centers, and I'm not going to call any names because I've been there to see it for myself, and get that data and then go back and write multi-million-dollar grants. Correct. And that money never comes back to where they got that data from.
Correct.
So we got it. It's information age, and people really we're in an education place right now. And once you start educating people, they're going to start making better decisions.
Correct.
Well,
and I trust my people. Go ahead, Craig.
One of the things we need to do, sister, is to make sure that whatever data we get, we keep it. We need to have our own CRM. We need to keep our data with ourselves, and then those who want the data, damn it, you come and pay for it. If we like you, we have to understand that we are in a state of war, and we don't have time to be mincing our words. We don't have time for diplomatic language when you're in this state of war. And unfortunately, some of our people, their greatest desire is to have a pat on the head or the back by our open enemies. Now, you're not an open enemy unless you prove yourself to be that. So we have to get to the point where we're not concerned about you liking us. We're more concerned about you respecting us in our community and doing what's right by our community. Correct. And I don't care if you smile with me or pat me on the head or back. You're not going to pat me on the head, first of all. But my point is, we have to be to the point where we're not playing games anymore. Yeah. We have to have a paradigm shift in the way that we deal with the systems of white supremacy and racism and Negroism, because many of us are Negroes that just want to sit there and curry favor with those in power or ingratiate ourselves with them so that we can have positions of power, but to hell with our community. And we have to stop that as well. So we have to understand that we have to really get in a military state of mind in terms of military science, how we approach our politics, how we approach our economics, and how we approach our social construct. Because one of the other things that Vision Walkers does is we try to train and make sure that we make our communities a safe and decent place to live. So our women can walk and our children can walk and the elderly can walk the streets in peace without, the fear of being shot or hurt by our own people and those outside of our community.
That's very true, very true. And I'm glad that you mentioned the social, economic, and the political construct, because they are all interconnected. And it's even deeper and more complex than that. Because when you start talking about, for example, the environment, that's connected. And with the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce, and I like to tell people, healthy environment, healthy people, healthy communities, healthy businesses. You cannot disconnect all of that. And healthy people goes towards your mental and physical health. It goes to who you elect. Because if you don't elect a healthy person into a seat, they're not going to do right by the community.
That's right.
And as healthy is a mental thing. It's a mental and a physical thing. And it's unhealthy when you don't consider your community. When you come from a place of selfishness, that's unhealthy. And it creates more unhealthy situations. And the economic part of it, it's not just politics and elected officials. We got to look at corporations and hold them accountable. They passed a law, Citizens United, that actually basically said corporations are people. And we pay that price to this day. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. That's crazy. So any of the groups that work with Vision Walkers, do you have any thoughts towards, like, I know we're talking politics, but what are you looking towards, like corporations holding them accountable? Because the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce, I'm out here. That's the lane I decided to follow, the economic lane. But is there any thought in the future of moving in that direction to hold corporations accountable, businesses accountable in your community? Because they impact who you hire. They impact procurements, with governments. They impact who starts a business. So is there any thought towards that?
Well,
at all?
I know you heard earlier when we said we just got off the Tom Steyer campaign. So, that was one of the first things that impressed us about Tom. He was willing to crush any tables, that would put money over the people. We talk about, gun violence. I mean, why do you think certain things like bullets and these type of things are able to be on the streets? We definitely don't bring it here. I mean, you don't think that they can put a stop to it if they wanted to?
Yeah.
Those are corporations. They're putting the money, above the politics. And the reason I'm not speaking too far on it, because Vision Walkers is currently writing a...
You're breaking up.
Okay.
Yeah, you buffered a little bit, Jason. You were saying you were currently writing, and then you buffered.
Okay. Vision Walkers is currently writing a bill right now that is dealing with, gun violence, that is dealing with a big corporation, so we ain't gonna speak too far on it. But we are the foundation of a new initiative that is pushing out now that is going to put more accountability on corporations, elected officials, and even our own communities. And that's called the Nonpartisan Black Electorate. That is an initiative that we're pushing that brings the Black collective together without being pledged to a certain party. Clear that Vision Walkers is not pledged to a certain party either. We consider ourselves to be a third political force. And that force is willing to break down any walls that is trying to put any type of stronghold on our community. We consider the frontline soldiers typically for the disenfranchised community. And we will stand on those front lines. We are fully equipped. We have the manpower, and we're definitely doing the training.
Very good. Very good. I'm glad to hear that. Craig, any thoughts?
Yes. When you're talking about corporations, with Black folks having 1.3 to 1.6 trillion dollars that we spend consumer power in the American economy, we should not have a problem with corporations disrespecting us. And the only reason why they are disrespecting us is because we are disrespecting our dollar and who we spend it with. If we decide that, look, Walmart, you're not getting another one of our dollars until you raise the rate, hourly rate of your employees, which many of our people work for, so that they can have a better wage for a higher quality of life for them and their families. When we decide that we want to punish people for not respecting us in our community, then it's done. But we play around with our own dollars and give it to those who disrespect us and give it to those who don't give a damn about our communities, then that's our fault. So one of the educational processes that we are doing with VisionWalkers is to make sure that our people understand the power of their dollar. We can withhold it from anyone if we choose to. Then we make them bow to our will and what we want them to do for our communities in terms of reinvestment, instead of in terms of job creation. We have to stop acting like we have to sit back and wait for some nice benevolent white folk or black folk to do for us what we have the power to unite and force them to do for us. And we should be doing this for ourselves as well.
And I totally agree with you. I recently, the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce, we came out with a statement calling for the end of cultural appropriation of the Gullah Geechee community. And we sent it to the media and also across our social media. To just be prior to that, like the day before, there was one company, because you could kind of see there was little talk out there, but we felt we needed to be part of that effort and take a lead on it. Had already announced that they were rebranding their company name. And then yesterday I got a email from North Carolina from a company that actually took a product out of their product line to rename it, because we called them out. We said, this must come to an end, the cultural appropriation of the Gullah Geechee community, and we put it out there. And we did more than just put it out there. We gave action steps. This is what's going to happen. One, call them out. Let them know they're wrong and why. Two, boycott. Tell them if you're not going to change, we're going to stop spending our money. And honestly, I can't remember the third thing right now, but there were 3 points. But it got attention and people were noticing. I didn't know that it had gone all the way up to Rocky Mount, North Carolina. But you got to stand up.
That's right.
You got to let them know. And we have not done this. And I don't necessarily understand why. I do know what we've been miseducated. And I have to admit that I don't understand why, because I come from a family. We've always been community involved. We've always been out there. So that was the way I was raised, to speak out. And sometimes to my own personal detriment. I've lost jobs because I've spoken out. And that's actually one of the reasons I started my own business, because I couldn't take working for people anymore because it was kind of holding me back. But part of it is being miseducated. So we have to re-educate our folks, not only in the political sense, but the economic sense. So Jason, I'm glad that you dropped in the word training. I don't know if that's something that you could share with us more, or just some in general speak about training, and what are specific action steps you guys are taking, that I'm out here looking at you guys and we're having this conversation, and what are some just specific things I can do in my community to get the ball rolling?
Okay. Well, first things first, as we said earlier, the data is the goal. And when we say that, we're not just speaking just as valuable so far as just financially, money-wise. We cannot boycott and do what we need to if we don't have the contacts to the people to do a mass text or a mass email for us all to be on one page. If we're placing that all in Vote Builder, which is the Democratic Party's CRM, how can we reach out? They're going to charge us $4,000 to get that. So what we have done personally, we've teamed up when I know you're familiar with Amplify, Brandon Upson. We've teamed up with him. Amplify has their own CRM. So we've partnered with them on this CRM, and so that we can place, and we also have our own files. So basically what I'm getting at, one of the trainings we do, we teach a certain group of our VisionWalkers how to properly file this data. We have our own system of filing the data, how to make sure we get the correct information, how to go behind on South Carolina votes and make sure that this information is correct and people know where their precincts are. First thing first, we can't hold nobody accountable if people don't even know where to go vote. These are issues that we know from actually going into the community. Next, we do a lot of event staffing and security. We actually was the group that did the security for the Million Man March here. We wasn't part of the organization of it, because typically we was telling our guys to stay out of the marches for a moment, because we're about doing things with substance, and not saying that they didn't have it, but it wasn't properly explained to us. And we're not just going to send our guys out here just to be, mercenaries for just anybody. So part of our training is teaching them how to do the proper research, look into a situation. We do drillings. We do where well, I ain't gonna speak on too much of security training, but just know we getting in on that point. We do leadership training. We do even to the fact that we teach them how to talk at a conference table, how to use correct body language. You know, a lot of times brothers of, you know, my age, typically we get pulled over by the police, yes, because of our color, but also because of our body language. I mean, if I'm riding in the car and I'm doing this right here and I'm doing this motions, I'm liable to draw attention from 15 other cars that everybody's just sitting back. So, I mean, we understand that body language is everything. A lot of times we like to train on typical stuff that most organizations train on, but we do training more mentally than physically. So part of that mental training is body language. You know, you can tell if a person is nervous. You can tell if a person is up to something. All that is simply off of body language. You know, so, you know, that's some of the training. I can't bring too much in because we don't like having our opposition having to step over us. So
I understand. I understand that, and that's
doing
good
the work.
information. What did you say, Craig?
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, because my phone kind of went quiet. No, Jason must have short circuited with his electrical energy. But yeah,
you know, I've been writing notes also as you were talking, because Galagichi Chamber, I started economic uplift and generational wealth. So everything that I kind of work with and bring attention to, I also have in my mind, how does this create jobs? How does this create business opportunities? And what people don't realize, this training, the CRMs, the data collection, social media example, those are job opportunities.
Correct.
Right.
Those are business opportunities that somebody can take those skills that you're giving them and go create a business and maybe, you know, start making a living. And we got to start thinking in that sense also. That takes some innovative, imaginative thinking. And it recalls a few years ago, when I was doing computer training with Bell South back in the day, about 15, 20 years ago. I'm aging myself now.
Come on now. You ain't that about 33 now. Come on.
No, she's not your age, Jason.
Yeah, I
know.
What you talking about? Go ahead.
But I would tell, I taught adults computers. Bell South hired me to come in, learn their computer systems, then turn around and teach it to their managers because they didn't have time to learn it. So that's what I did. I was their instructor. But I would talk to the adults, in particular Black adults, and I'm just being honest because I try to look out for my people and tell them what you need to do is go to your children and have them learn computers. And they would tell me, oh, they're on the computer all the time. They do PowerPoint and Word. And I said, no, that's not what I mean. What I mean is they need to learn programming. Because right now they are consumers. They're using something someone else created. They learn programming. They can actually create another version of Word. They can create another PowerPoint. They create what we know now as social media. You know, people forget Facebook is not that old. Facebook is maybe about 15 years old. And that was about that same time. I said, as a Black community, we have been trained to be consumers rather than creators. And if you create something, you own it, then you can do what with it? You could charge for it.
Right.
That's creating a business. And that's the mindset. It goes back to even on the political side, we've been miseducated because we've been handing off our information to people and doing the work for them. We literally have been knocking on doors and coming back. Here the information.
Right.
You know?
Crazy.
Yeah.
One thing our issue is sometimes it's not that we don't have creativity. It's just sometimes our people have been taught to bow. You know, we had Black Planet before it was Facebook. But a lot of times, soon as we get to the fact where we're about to be really doing what we plan to do, we let these white supremacy folks come and buy us out or give us a spot at their table. And our leaders sometimes are so willing just to give it up, just to sit at the table.
Yeah.
They don't worry about building on. We go to our communities and say we want to build something. Soon as we get to the point where we're putting the walls up, the foundation has been laid. one of these folks from the white supremacy world say, hey, I give you an office at the top of our building. Here, just throw them a few hammers and nails. They'll finish the rest. I'll give them $5,000.
Yeah.
We have to be able to go out, get the resources and the networks, and keep it in our community. Keep building. We should have kept building Black Planet. But we all decided to get off Black Planet and get on Facebook because we want to fit in with the Facebook crowd. But now, a lot of times, it's the only outlet we have right now. So I understand why we have to use it. But we got to quit banking.
But I agree with you on the creativity. We are very creative.
Right.
Need more imagination, innovation. We do. I mean, obviously we're not perfect, and as witnessed by what you just said. But we see that. I see that as opportunity. Right now, it is Facebook, but there is always opportunity out there, and there's someone that we need to uplift. And I've actually been in touch with a young Black gentleman out of San Francisco who has a system named after Frederick Douglass.
Right.
And trying to compete with Facebook, and he's building it now. So there are folks out there in our community doing their thing. Correct. We just need to start paying attention to it so we could grab onto that information and share it and start using it and everything. So very good point.
And those of us who have the wealth to put behind those ideas should do so. While we're still investing in corporations on Wall Street, we need to start finding these brothers like the one out in San Francisco and these sisters who are doing great things on their own, but they need the capital to back them so they can grow their business to become a corporation and become a corporate giant. So we need to make sure that we appeal to those of us who are wealthy to put our money behind those of us who are striving to do better. And unfortunately, one of the main reasons that we are having this problem with 40 to 50 million people, we are stroked with fear.
Correct.
We are afraid to even help one another. We are so concerned about how somebody else is going to think about what we're doing that doesn't live in our community, that it restricts our movement, it restricts our thinking. And that's very unfortunate. So and I like to use this terminology, until Black men get the testicular fortitude, and until Black women get the ovarian audacity to really have the courage to go for what they want in unity, we're going to continue to pass this same problem on to our children and our grandchildren. I am so sick and tired of us fighting the fight that my grandparents had to fight. That is a damn shame that my children now are going to be passed that same legacy that was passed to us because of cowardice and fear and lack of courage. That has to be removed. And we have to challenge ourselves. We have to have personal accountability to not allow ourselves to be shrunk or overpowered by fear. So I'm appealing to those of you who are listening. Those are my brothers and sisters. I know some of you out there say, that's an angry Black man. Well, when you look at the condition of our people and you're not angry, then maybe something is wrong with you. Because if we are not angry, then anger should not force you to do something stupid. What it should force you to do is to do something positive, to change the reality under which you live and in which our community live and in which our people live. So I'm appealing to us as Black people to release that fear, that courage, because really those who have power over us fear us. That's why they keep us in this condition. And that's why they keep subjugating us and brutalizing us and tormenting us and terrorizing us. But that can't happen unless you and I can continue to consent to it.
I totally agree with you. And before I come back to that, Craig, let me remind everyone that you're watching A Gathering Place, hosted by the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. I had to do my little station breaks, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Hosted by the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. So, Craig, I am so happy that you said that so many of us do not realize that they're not operating from a place of supremacy. They're actually operating from a place of fear. And when you're and that's what they're very afraid of, the demographical change of America. And we have to understand that too. It's America that is getting more Black and brown. Because if you look at the whole globe, Black and brown people are in the majority. That's the point blank. So it ain't new. It's new to America that was founded for white landowner
Right.
males.
Correct.
And that goes to why we need to even know our history and understand history, not history where we're memorizing events and dates, because that's the way they taught us, but the
Right.
history of the nuances of the people on the ground who made decisions that changed the world. And that's really understanding the complexity and nuances of it. And once you do that, you will understand that there are knots and threads that bind us to what happened before,
Right.
and that will bind us to what is going to happen in the future.
Right.
And that leads us to be responsible. We have to be responsible for that and
Yeah.
make some decisions, as you say, break the chains.
Correct.
We need to break the chains and realize they operate out of fear. They fear Black people. And I was someplace the other day on a panel, and I actually said, and I've said this from the beginning, I didn't start the Gallagher Chamber of Commerce to sit at your table.
That's right.
I started it to create a whole new table,
That's
not
right.
realizing someone told me
Yeah,
later, man, you should have seen some faces when you said that. I mean, I'm not really looking at their faces to get their reaction because I don't care.
that's
I
right.
Right.
really don't. Yeah, I love everybody, love humans and all that. Okay, I got that, y'all. We love everybody, but let's be realistic. You know, it's a righteous anger that I have, and I have decided to take that energy to start the Gallagher Chamber of Commerce, to start the Gallagher Chamber Foundation, to start the Gallagher Leadership Institute, because I'm here to build a whole new table.
Right.
What I'm offering you is to create a bigger dining room.
Right.
But you ain't sitting at my table unless I invite you.
And I want to
You
say
know?
something on that as well too, Ms. Marilyn. Um, me and Brother Craig, we speak a lot. We deal with a lot of groups. A lot of folks invite us to, they think tanks and everything like that. But a lot of problem in our society, in the Black society, we have the power, but we tend to have 15 heads in one body. How many meetings you went to where it's a different name of the organization, a different whole new setting, but it's the same people sitting in the chairs. You know, as a community, we got to understand, if your organization doesn't have a body, keep the brand going, but get up underneath an umbrella, or let's come together to a collective table where we can show our opposition that we think with one mind. But a lot of times we show that we're not together because we're having 10 different meetings saying the same thing with the same body of people. We believe in our group, it's no big I's and little U's. We tend to see ourselves like a plane. You got a pilot, you have a co-pilot, you have a dispatcher, you have a ramp planner, you have a navigator. All these folks play a part, and they all are leadership in their own roles.
Yeah.
So, I'm with all the groups that are out here, but let's come together with a collective. Joining VisionWalkers is not saying, hey, I'm becoming a member. We want to bring you in as a leader. We want you to sit at the table where you don't have to hide your identity, but you get up under this banner where we're willing to put the guys, the 500 plus more guys on the grounds behind the initiative. There's no need for me to get under a banner if you don't even have the soldiers to back it. Come on around here so we can protect you and put this barrier around you.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. And it makes you stronger.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
The
And
body's made out of the head, the arms, the hands, the feet, the legs, all these parts working together
Correct.
to make a healthy body. And
Correct.
and
that's
I like
yeah. Go
I'd like
ahead.
to say this too, Marilyn.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand the very expression of the word love. And sometimes I think, though, that if our love is not properly understood, if the word love is not properly understood, it can become blinding. When we say, as a people, and I know we say it all the time, I love everybody, we genuinely mean that I don't want to do anybody any harm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Love is not about just doing not loving somebody is not about doing the person harm. It means that you have to earn my love. You have to earn it. My love is all I got. It's the power of God inside of me. So if you haven't earned it, I'm not going to give that to you because it's worth something.
Mm-hmm.
So when you
Mm-hmm.
are abusing me, beating the hell out of me, and just treating me in all manner of evil, I have no reason to love you. I haven't justified loving you. You haven't did anything that justifies me loving you. So when it comes to Black people in America, we have gotten to the point where we fear them so much that we love white supremacy out of fear. That's not love. When you're afraid to not love somebody because they're going to beat the hell out of you, that's not love.
Well,
So what I'm
that's
saying
an
to
abusive
those
relationship.
Caucasians who are listening, when you hear Black people, particularly Black men, talk like this, it's not from the spirit of hate. It's the spirit of knowing the historical context of our relationship with you. And based on that context, we have to be leery and concerned about how you're going to behave presently and how you're going to behave in the future, because you have not given us a yardstick by which to measure how successfully you will deal with us from the spirit of justice, from the spirit of freedom and equity. So you have something to prove to us. You have something to prove to us and how we should deal with you. We shouldn't trust you right away. You have to prove and become worthy of that trust. That's one thing I like about Tom Steyer when he came to South Carolina. He didn't come to us with any demands. He came to talk. He came to dialogue, and he asked us, will you give me a Black agenda so that I can represent it for you in the halls of power? So he didn't come here with a sense of pompous, with a sense of privilege, like we're supposed to automatically give way to his guidance when he hasn't lived our life. So until we start saying that we love everybody, we should make their behinds earn it. We should make them earn it. I know we have tender hearts, but we got to make them earn
it. Very true.
Because anytime a man start beating on you, Marilyn, and I know about it, I'm looking for him. Whether you say you love him or not, I can see beating. I can see that he's beating the hell out of you, and you all abused up, and you come back, but I love him so much.
Well, we know that.
Deal with that
Thank you.
And get you some mental help.
You
so
know,
that's what we look like. We look like we are mentally ill, running before the world, talking about how much we love white people. We look mentally ill. We abused, busted up.
Well, it's an abusive relationship. It's an abusive relationship we have with America. The Black community.
Yeah, it's an abusive relationship.
It's an abusive relationship, and we need to recognize that. But and I have a habit of saying that because exactly how you explained it is how it's happening, and I get tired of them coming back with the white fragility, I believe is the term they use now, or the white tears and stuff, and I'm like, but I'm doing what I got to do.
Right.
And it makes them uncomfortable because they come from privilege and entitlement and don't even realize it because it just is. Well, that can change though. The thing is, the flip side, it can change. So we're getting close to our time, but I do want to ask you this final question, and both of you answer it. In this day and time now, with what's going on with Black Lives Matter after the murder of George Floyd, and clearly there is something happening. What do you see happening, and what do you see for the future? Do we have an opportunity to make real change?
Yeah, Brother Jason.
Jason, you can start.
Oh, me again, the start.
Well, Craig just gave it to you, so
it's all good. Well, first I want to say that we have to transfer our energy to the right people. I think sometimes we put a lot of our energy and pushing it at the wrong folks who can't change nothing. Sometimes we're looking at folks who can't do nothing. Like a lot of times, sometimes we're mad at the police, and I'm not talking just brutality. I mean, the incarceration at a mass level of our Black folks. That's in the justice system. I dealt with it. A lot of vision walkers that transition, you asked what's a success story. I am the success story. At one point, you wasn't going to want me on your show. You know what I mean? I'm just being honest. And I always had respect for, our Black mothers. So I'm not saying in that direction, but I was angry. I didn't know where to put that energy at. So the first thing we do with our guys is we show them where to transfer that energy at. I think everybody plays a part. It's cool for people to do the marching. But while you marching, I'm going to be the guy that's marching into the State House and get in front of that legislator and say, hey, you see those 200 guys in the front right there with the black shirts that ain't moving? That's our guys. We're going to times 10 that if you don't do what we need done. So I think we got to be more intentional with the way we move. I think we have to direct our energy to the right folks. I'm tired of talking to people. If you can't make the changes, if you don't even have the authority to make the changes, I don't even want to talk to you. We let too many of these people that is mostly in white supremacy make them feel that they are superior to us. If you can't make any changes, get out the way. There's no need in me talking to you. I want to talk to the guy who can make the changes. And we don't care if you don't like us or not, because I rather you show me you like me, that you don't like me, than act like you like me and you're really an enemy. You know, that's just the same thing how I feel about Trump. You know, might as well bring him in this too. You know, personally, no, I don't like him personally, but I like the power that he pushes. I would never vote for him, but I don't have a problem with somebody showing me that I'm not his people. I don't have a problem with somebody showing me like, hey, I'm going to worry about my people first. Great. Give us our little 7 states over here and let all us black folks come over here. That's a demand. We got to stop getting out here marching with no demands. We got to stop saying, hey, our community needs jobs. No, they don't just need jobs. They need careers. You know, that little $2 million that y'all putting towards here, let us get 1 million of that and we'll pay our own guys. You know, so we got to stop making these demands that's not intentional. So, you know, yeah, I get a little hype because, yeah, I'm passing to Brother Craig. Thank you, Miss Marilyn. Time is running out.
I totally get you, Jason. I really do. I love it because that's the stuff I like. I love it. All right, Craig.
Right. I'm not gonna be because we got like 3 minutes left. So
Well,
Jason pretty
I'm gonna
much.
have to bring y'all back because
That'd be
that
wonderful.
conversation, that's a
That'd
whole
be
nother
wonderful.
conversation we got to have.
That'll be wonderful. So
Go ahead,
Jason
Craig.
pretty much touched on it all, and I would just like to say, reiterate, with all of the power and momentum that our community is seeing to gather right now, we don't need to be continuously going to white forces of supremacy and begging them for the change that we seek. We have the collective power, energy, and resources to make sure that we do that ourselves. Because we don't want to give them the power to rule over us any longer. In fact, when it comes to police brutality, we have enough black retired and current military black men and law enforcement black men and others who have been working among our community for decades to make sure that we can police and secure and protect our own community the right way. It's going to get to a point, and I said this in front of police officers, in front of police chiefs and sheriffs, that we're going to not allow your people in our communities because if they come in there acting like they're hunting on a plantation, we're going to drive their behinds out. So in order for bloodshed not to get to that point, if you guys are not going to fire them yourselves, they're not going to be allowed to come in our communities and hurt our people. And we just sit around with a damn camera taking pictures and talking about we got it on camera. When you beating up our women and our children and our elderly in the street, that's got to stop. But the first thing we got to do, brothers, we got to stop the violence among ourselves. We have to stop warring against each other. But I will admit, I will say this, that the forces of white supremacy that are inundated in law enforcement right now, they also are part of that violence, but you just don't understand how. Because what they do have now is this synthetic black skin that they can put on a mask and look just like a black man. And they're driving by shooting and killing our people. So you wonder why all of these violence is happening in these major cities. Well, that's how it's happening. It ain't necessarily these brothers that are doing it. There are other forces at work that are doing this through nefarious means that are harming our people. And that's why it was a sight to see in Atlanta when that group called INFAC went down there and marched to Georgia, Stone Mountain, Georgia, about 1,000 black men with all those guns and weapons to scare the hell out of everybody. Now the governor of Georgia has called in 1,000 National Guard to patrol the streets in Georgia, because what they don't want is those 1,000 men to go back to our communities and patrol our own streets and make sure those places are safe and decent to live. And they don't want that because some of their own people who have been driving through there with black synthetic skin and mask on, who are shooting our people, and some of them belong to law enforcement, they don't want them getting capped back. Because one thing those brothers will do is fire back on you. So we need to start thinking about securing ourselves, securing our communities, loving one another, and doing for ourselves. Like Sister Marilyn said, build our own table. Don't beg to get at nobody else's table. Build our own. Thank you, sister, for this show. And we certainly appreciate all that you're doing through the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce and the other things that you are doing. So continue to do that. And black folk, release that fear. Whether you live or die, die on the principles of freedom, justice, and equality, and truth, and loving one another. And if we do that, we'll be out of this condition before too long. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
I can't say anything else after that. And
Me
that's
either.
what I wanted to hear. And you know something? We laugh, y'all. You gotta laugh because it's healthy.
That's right.
It's healthy to laugh, and we look. I love my brothers. We can laugh, and that's a good thing because you. This is a fight for the long run.
That's right.
Right.
And it's healthy to laugh. It's healthy to have some righteous anger if it's directed in the right way. And that's what we got to get, and can't run from that anymore. We can't run
Right.
from our anger anymore. We got to learn how to control that. So
Correct.
thank you for your words. I do extend the invitation. Y'all come on back anytime. It's every Wednesday at 4, every Sunday at 4 o'clock. Just let me know. I'd love to have you back. As a matter of fact, I'm going to bug you to come back. All right. But I
No
want to
doubt we
We'd
will.
love
remind
to be back.
everyone, very good. I want to remind everyone that you're watching A Gathering Place, hosted by the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. And at 5:30 today, we are partnering with the Georgetown NAACP, and we're going to bring you a financial workshop webinar, and you can register from our Facebook page to sign into that webinar so you can learn how to get money for black and brown businesses. So we want everybody to tune in at 5:30. So I'm ending this show to go right into another show, folks.
Okay,
So thank you,
Marilyn,
Jason. Yes, Craig. Yes.
before you go, please give my greetings to my dear brother and friend down there in Georgetown, Brother Willie Singleton, who's been
Oh,
fighting
I
hard
will.
for the freedom and justice and equality of our people.
I need that. Yeah, I will. I definitely
Uh,
will. I definitely will.
Thank you.
Thank you for mentioning Jason, Craig. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us today. You guys come on back anytime and educate us some more. And good luck with Vision Walkers. Let us know anything that we could do to help out also. And I want to talk to you guys about some more stuff and hook you up with some folks down here in Georgetown also that doing some
Definitely.
work. I,
Thank
I
you so
want to
much.
make sure that we all get connected because we're stronger together.
That's
That's
right.
Stronger
right.
together. All right,
That's right.
very good. Thank you. Be safe.
Thank you.
All right, sir.
Wear your mask, even though it's white man. I'm not using this one again. Whoo, I'm out my garden. Wear your mask. Use your hand
Get that Pax
sanitizer.
immune.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Y'all be good. Thank you for coming on, and we'll see you later.
Thank you, sister.
All
All
right.
right.
Bye.
All right.